Welcome back to the Two Promises Podcast. Let's dive right into another exciting adventure with BD and crew as he pursues his new passion of one day finding the most epic bourbon. The Two Promises team send their special thanks to Hobie and the Huckleberries for their masterful theme music. So grab a glass, relax, and enjoy responsibly.
Baby says she's leaving if I don't stop drinking wine. So I switched to whiskey, now I'm feeling fine. Drinking that smooth, smooth whiskey. No more wine. I like straight bourbon. Baby, you try the ride.
Welcome back, everyone. Grateful that you're tuning in again on another episode of the Two Promises Podcast. I am super excited that today we have on a brother of mine, a fellow teammate. We were at Team 1 together pretty much my entire time at Team 1, and he has just gone on to not just serve the Navy, serve the United States and the SEAL teams, but now he's just doing great things with his consulting businesses and other businesses. We have Coach Ty Smith on. How you doing, Ty?
I'm doing great, brother. I'm so excited to be here with you, man.
Absolutely. It has been a ride. We were just talking about that a little bit as we were catching up before the show about just life and how it'll take you down some different paths. But I just kind of do a little rehash of where we started and where we're at now. So you came out to Iraq after you got done with one of your shore duty commands, I believe. And I was there with Winkley and the Bravo guys, and I met them kind of midstream because I was just finishing up the medical course. So I joined them about a month into deployment, and I think you were right in that same time frame as well. And then we went to different platoons at Team 1, did different things, and then I got asked to go fill a medical shortfall with Team 3, and we ran into each other again in Afghanistan whenever you were coming out there as your platoon chief.
Yeah, absolutely. And now that you mention it, now I remember. So I think that first deployment where you and I linked up, I think wasn't that the deployment in Al Assad, Iraq?
Yes.
So yeah, you were out there with Wink and Tisdall,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
Yeah. And so that deployment is actually where I met Senior Chief Retired Joey Brackett, who is one of my best friends in the whole world to this day. And Joey would go on to be my platoon LPO when I was a platoon chief back at 1.
Okay, excellent. And so then that would have been that Afghanistan deployment or a different one.
Well, I'm trying to remember, dude. Like, bro, we've been hit across the head like way too many times. I have a hard time. So was that the Al Assad Iraq deployment in 2009, right after we left Buds, when I was an instructor and you were going through training? Or was that fast forward a few years and it was when I was a platoon chief at 1 and I relieved Wink and Hartley in Afghanistan and Baraki Barak? Which one was it?
So we crossed path on both of those.
That's what I thought,
your
yeah.
LPO? Was that in Afghanistan or?
That was in Afghanistan.
I lost touch with him. Okay, cool. Yeah, I lost
I
touch
see,
with him.
Yeah, so when I got out to Al Assad with Wink and Tisdall and all of those guys, Brackett was in that platoon too, but he was the LPO at the time.
Okay.
And I was just leaving Buzz after that 2.5-year tour as an instructor. And then I went to 1 and they immediately threw me in that platoon. They were already gone, so they forward deployed me out there. I went to Ramadi, hung out in Ramadi with Jason Tushin for a couple of months. Because remember, I was just coming off of, I had been sick for almost 2 years when I was a BUDS instructor. In fact, I don't know if you remember some of that time you were there. Like I was super skinny, because it come to find out that I had hyperthyroid disease and it was killing me. And fortunately, I recovered. But after that, when they sent me to Team 1, I went out to Ramadi with Tush for a while, hung out there with him for about a month or two. And then that's when they farmed me out to Wink and Tisdall. And that's when I met Joey Brackett for the first time on that deployment. Right. And you had Dave Dillahy out there as well. And And then you fast forward several years is when I became a platoon chief and I recruited Joey Brackett into my platoon to be my platoon LPO. And that's when we
Excellent.
relieved Wink again, but he was with Sam Hartley as the OIC at that time.
That's right. That's right. And on that turnover op, so I don't know this. I know there's probably part of the platoon or whatever, but we had just built a police checkpoint right in like the Tangi Valley, just kind of like bad guy territory. And that's whenever Hartley got shot. He got shot while we were building that checkpoint. Well, right before we ripped out, it got overtaken by the
Mm-hmm.
Taliban again. So that turnover op was taking that checkpoint back. And just, I know I was controlling air for part of it because there was some like comms issue and things like that. But whenever they got there, they had just like cut out the kidneys and smeared the walls with the kidneys and stuff like that, and just completely decimated the last people standing there. Waited for them to run out of ammunition, came in, killed them all, and then we took it back. But I mean, that whole area, obviously, you know, the pullout of Afghanistan was pretty ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, that's just the nature of the world there. Is there anything else from that deployment that stuck out for you? That's just what I remember of us just kind of like high-fiving, saying, all right, this is where we've been. This is what we've been doing. You guys got it now.
Yeah, man. Because we that turnover, I think that was the one we went out to Saracen. It was either when we went to Amadak Hill or it was Amadak Hill, not Saracen,
Yep.
right? And so there was a tremendous amount that I remember from that deployment because as we were lead y'all, fighting season was kicking off and we got in so many gunfights. I mean, twice a week we were fighting for our lives in anywhere between 8 and 18-hour gunfights for that whole deployment. It was easily the most kinetic deployment of my entire career. Dude, I think that we got in at least 60, 70 gunfights in that 4.5 months we were there until they pulled everybody out and retrograded. But the Tangi Valley, Baraki Barak District Logo Province in general is known for being one of the bloodiest regions in all theater because it's a valley and you've got terrain on each side of it and it opens up at the mouth of the Tangi Valley. But if you turn around and go the other way up to the northwest, you're going up into the mountains and you're escaping into Pakistan. So that's their MSR, right? That's their main supply route. So they come in that way, they go out that way. That's how they resupply. There's always a tremendous amount of Taliban traffic taking that pass in order to come into country and fight in order to escape out as fighting season is wrapping up and it's starting to get cold and they want to go hide out in the mountains of Pakistan. And so given that we were there for all of fighting season, it was just a really, really bloody deployment. Fortunately, we prevailed and Joey and Tav and I were able to bring all the boys home safely. Dude, we Winchester and AC-130 gunship 3 times that deployment. In 4.5 months, we Winchester and AC-130 gunship 3 times. We got in so many crazy gunfights. So many of those gunfights were 4-sided gunfights where we were just running and gunning like it's a Call of Duty video game. You're just getting shot at from everywhere. And fortunately, my boys, dude, I had some killers. They were just so good. And it was helpful that we had, I think, an additional 6 months to train before we even started our training cycle because we formed early because SEAL Team 1 had just done that shift around of everyone. And so I had basically built our own private 6-month ULT, unit level training. And I took the boys all over the place. I took them to Germany for a month where we did this big training exercise of a bunch of different special operations groups from I think it's like 30 different countries. I took them down to Nellis Air Force Base in Las Vegas twice for a combined 30 days of our own training. We were all over the place getting after it. So by the time we started ULT, man, we were singing. And that was really helpful because when we got out to that deployment, and I had told the guys before we were heading out there, hey, like, this is serious. You know, I was reading every one of Wink and Hartley's intelligence reports that they were passing down to me. Wink was passing me those reports every day, pretty much. And I was reading them every day for months on out before we went out there. And so I spent a bunch of time preparing my guys for what they were about to get into, especially considering most of my boys were brand new guys. And so, dude, there were so many gunfights that we got into that were by the grace of God. Like, I can't believe nobody got shot. I can't believe nobody got blown up. I can't believe that helicopter didn't just get shot down like right before our eyes. Like, I don't know why they tried to land it right there in a hail of rockets and gunfire. But man, how much time you got? you know?
Right. Yeah. And that was kind of the characteristic of my experience out there in Baraki Barak as well. And just for a little bit of flavor, I've been actually kind of going through some of this stuff with some of my writing, and that's the same valley that Extortion 17 was shot down in. So,
In fact, the reason why I was selected to lead that platoon was because I was on that deployment with Gold. I was at two troop when one troop was shot down on Extortion 17. And I will never forget that night. I was laying in my hooch and I was watching some stupid show on TV. Because you know the deal, like we sleep all day and then we get up when the sun starts going down, right? Because we hunt all night. And we were on an off night because two troop was going out. And we would QRF for one another. If they went out, we were their quick reactionary force. If we went out, they were our quick reactionary force. And so we were all awake and just kind of doing our thing. And dudes were hanging out because we knew that two troop was going out and they were working out of Fob Shank. We were working out of J-Bag, right? And so I was laying in my bed watching this show, and really good buddy of mine, dude, I went through Bud's training with, who was permanently attached to Gold, ran by my room, stuck his head in the door, was like, "Hey, Ty, like, get up, we gotta go to the team room. Extortion 17 just got shot down." And I thought he was joking, right? And he looked at me, and I could see in his eyes, he was like, "I'm not joking, brother. I'm serious. We gotta go." And I'm like, "Get up, we gotta go." Start running to the team room. Everybody starts getting jocked up. And my buddy, Wooly, starts walking over to me, and I was one of his new guys at SEAL Team 8 back in the day, and I could see the look on his face. He was horrified. And he walked up to me and he said, he's like, "Dude, I watched the whole thing go down on ISR. Like, there's no way those guys are alive." Next thing he said was, "My best friend's dead. I know Johnny Foss is dead." And, he just put his head down and started walking up into the team room. And as we're getting kitted up, CMC, the FAMS chief, walks in. He goes, "Everybody stand down. This is what happened. Like, we're pretty sure all of the boys are dead. There's no way I'm sending you guys out there to pull your own brothers out of that helo." And we wouldn't have been able to do it immediately anyway, because that thing was burning for like a week after it went down, and those guys' charges, their frag grenades, everything was just going off for like a week while that bird was burning. And so they ended up sending a platoon of Rangers out there, and they set up a cordon, and they slug it out for like 5 days while that thing was burning. Taliban was trying to get to it, see what they could get. And the Rangers were just whipping the ever loving crap out of them, like Rangers do best.
yep.
And then eventually they were able to get everything out of there. And we went over to Shank and hung out at Shank for a couple of weeks while we were basically inventorying the guys' stuff and recovering weapons and equipment that had been pulled from the crash site so that we could inventory and send things back, send guys' families back their personal items that were still out there in theater with us. That was pretty crazy. And so when you fast forward, I actually made chief on that deployment when I was augmenting Gold, because I was still permanently attached to SEAL Team 1. I was just augmenting. And when I got back from that deployment is when Chris Good said to me, "Hey, man, I think you're ready for a platoon, right? I know that you just came back from the augment, so you're very familiar with the Tangi Valley because you're out there with Gold. You probably want to go back to Afghanistan. So the platoon I'm giving you is likely the platoon that we're going to choose to go to Afghanistan." I didn't know at the time that we were going to go back to Baraki Barak, or, the J-Bad area, the Baraki Barak area. But that's when he selected me to take that platoon and take him back to Afghanistan. And a few months after that is when we realized, oh, we're going back. I'm going back to the Tangi Valley. And that day, every day, my boys probably got tired of hearing it. And I was just hammering them like, "You guys don't understand. This is serious. The place we're going, we are going to get in fights. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, right? We're really lucky. We got chose to be the A team and go exactly to where the fighting is. There is going to be a lot of fighting, because even when I was out there with Gold before Extortion got shot down, we got into a bunch of gunfights, like really crazy gunfights. And so I knew what we were getting into. And again, by the grace of God, I was able to get my boys there. We did a fantastic job, and then we got out of there. But while we were there, I thought that we were going to witness another helicopter crash as a result of an operation we were running with the ODA, which maybe I'll save that story for later or for another time. But yeah, man, that was a crazy valley, bro.
It really was. It really was. I mean, when we were building that checkpoint, that's the closest I've ever come to being shot. And it was like a few times, but no joke, I felt the round pass by my head. That is how close it was. I felt the wave coming off of that bullet going right by my head, and then it was just pocking all around my feet. But all our training kicked in. We went right into IMTs. We got out. Like, we were just, me and my shooting buddy were pretty exposed there for a while, but he said whenever he hit the deck, he didn't even like go down like into his sights. He, no joke, just face planted in the dirt. And he's like, I'm so glad I did, because I had my head kicked up, which is not what you're supposed to do in IMTs, but it saved him. Whatever it was, had that instinct told him, nope, this is the time I go down. And so he went straight down face into the dirt. And he said he felt that round go like right over the back of his head. And had he been popped up, would have domed him. So yeah, that's a very dangerous area. There's a lot going on there. IMT'd for a bit until our buddies could clean us up. And then we were able to kind of move a little bit faster and get out of that kill zone. But yeah, it's a crazy spot. So, man, thanks for sharing all that. I didn't realize you had that history with Extortion 17. So that's really good stuff to share there, especially, I mean, we're recording this the day after that anniversary, so it's been heavy in my mind. Two of the guys in class with me, Spihar and Groob, they were killed on that. We just did the centennial graduation of our class, and we had a memorial up there for them just to kind of keep their memory alive and let all these new warriors that are joining our ranks to know, hey, man, it's real. This is the real deal. This is what you're getting into. So it's really good to be able to honor their memory. So that's where we kind of lost career contact. I went on, I did a different thing. You did a different thing. So can you catch me up with your career post that Chiefs platoon? Where'd you go? What'd you do? I know you did a lot of great things.
Yeah, so after my platoon chief cycle at SEAL Team 1, I took orders down to the Advanced Training Command to be the Senior Enlisted Advisor of Naval Special Warfare SEER School, Search, Evade, Resist, and Escape School. And so for all the listeners, that is the last block of training that the students go through before they actually get their SEAL Trident and get assigned to a SEAL team. And so I was down there for about a year and a half before I retired. I got down there and basically focused on finishing my undergraduate studies. And then I immediately hopped into business school at USC. And so I knocked out my graduate studies, built my first company within that last 6 months of my active duty time. And then I retired. I put on senior chief and then I retired. As soon as I finished, like literally the week after I finished my MBA at USC, I retired from the Navy and was working for myself.
That's freaking awesome. That's great. I'm so stoked to hear that. So what was that first company that you were building? You said you were able to build that while you're doing your transition into retirement.
Yeah, so it was called Vigilance Risk Solutions. We were a technology enabled security consultancy. And so our special focus was workplace violence prevention. And so we would build bespoke web-based training courses for companies to teach them how to keep employees safe. We would do their security assessments. We would help them write their policy around risk and responding to bad things that would happen on the campus or with their company. We did that for about 4.5 years, almost 5 years, until COVID started rearing its ugly head. And I realized that it was going to crash that business model. And that's when, long story short, we ended up becoming ComSafe AI, this generative artificial intelligence company. And that was fortunately like still a year or two ahead of the big AI wave starting. We were early on that. I learned a tremendous amount in raising that first company, especially when I fast forward to now and I can look back on how much I learned. Like honestly, I'm like, dude, I didn't know anything back then. Like I was just like, okay, I can team guide this like I team guide everything else. I'll figure it out. Let's go. But when I look back on it, I'm like, yeah, I probably would have did things a little bit differently given what I know now.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the magic of it sometimes. Sometimes it's just getting in there, getting to work, throwing yourself at it, and you're learning through it. And then you can take that experience and all those lessons learned, as if you apply them right, those are those things that you can apply into that next company or to that next mover to help other people. And that really springboards them so they don't have to repeat some of those mistakes. But I mean, the magic a lot of times is just getting in there and doing it.
Yeah, man. There's a saying in business where people say sometimes the best way to know if you can do business with someone is for y'all to just get together and go out and start trying to do business. And then you figure it out along the way whether it's going to work out or not, right?
That's great. That's great. Yeah, that's awesome stuff. So you did ComSafe AI, and now I'm feeling like your major push is in your hero consulting, and
Yeah.
this is
So Hero Consulting is like this was always supposed to be my capstone, right? So Hero Consulting is an executive coaching company where I focus on men of faith that want to become entrepreneurs. And I teach these men how to build businesses that scale really, really quickly because of model and because of spiritual alignment. And it had always been my plan to grow ComSafe AI to the point where it got acquired. And then I would go on and tell my story to other founders and motivate them to do the same thing and let them know that it's absolutely possible for them to do the same thing. In fact, here, let me show you how I did it so that you can avoid all of the booby traps that I stepped on along that route, right? And a few months ago, I had a lot of stuff that was going on in my personal life and my professional life. And I just felt like God was telling me, no, you're going to launch that now. You're not going to wait for ComSafe to be acquired. You're going to launch that now. And I'm really, really glad that I did for several reasons. But ComSafe AI is right now is tied up in M&A transaction with a private equity company attempting to acquire it. And whether that goes through or not, you know what I mean? God's will be done either way. And so we'll see how that turns out. But it's given me the ability to kind of focus on growing out Hero Consulting as quickly as I can, so that if ComSafe doesn't get acquired right away, there's a way for me to tie those together and have them mutually support one another. But Hero Consulting is getting a lot of my attention these days. And I found that it's almost like it's cathartic, man, because I feel like now I am operating within my purpose. I feel like now I'm operating within my God assigned purpose, which is to be a prophet to the nations, someone that goes out and that is actively a walking and talking testimony of God's grace. And I'm trying to give that fruit to other people and show them how to raise themselves and their tribes up too, so that not only do they have spiritual alignment, right? These are men that are trying their best to walk in the image of God, but also while teaching them, hey, this is the path that not only is building generational wealth for your family, your responsibility, but this is how you do it. And this is how you do it as quickly as possible. And so I'm having a lot of fun doing that because in my heart of hearts, I mean, like, you were one of my students, but I was instructor, man. Like, you know more than most. In my heart of hearts, I'm a teacher. I love helping people. I love helping people to grow and seeing that big old smile on their face when they do something that they never thought that they could do, right? Watching
absolutely.
a group of brand new Navy SEALs walk across that grinder graduating from budge training, and knowing that I had something to do with that feeling that they're experiencing right now. And that's what really sets my heart on fire. And with Hero Consulting, I feel like I'm kind of living in that lane these days, and it's a lot of fun. And so I'm coaching aspiring and brand new entrepreneurs. I'm also doing leadership development workshops for large companies. I'm getting ready to launch some online training courses on entrepreneurship to help, entrepreneurs to do it, for me to do it with them so that, again, they avoid a lot of the mistakes that cost time and money and resources, mistakes that I made early on in my career. And then I'm also doing a lot of writing as well. Because again, I think that my purpose, a part of my purpose is to help other people grow. And it's hard to do that one on one. And so I've had to learn how to communicate to crowds, which is why you see me so busy on social media all day, every day. But I'm finding different avenues to do that. And so I've got a couple of books that are coming out really, really soon. And again, I'm doing podcasts all over the place. I actually filmed my first masterclass yesterday. I'm really excited to get that published on my YouTube channel at Coach Ty Smith. and that is The Modern Man, a Navy SEAL's Guide to Mastery, Meaning, and Mission. So I'm really, really excited to share that with all of the men out there that are looking to advance their lives. And so it's keeping me busy, but I'm finding that I'm having a lot of fun doing it. It's not the kind of busy where I'm stressed out. I'm like, yeah, like this is what God wants me to do. He wants me to go out there and raise other people up and share my fruit with them and help them to accomplish their goals and build wealth for their families and keep their hearts in the right place so that the devil doesn't start pulling them in this direction now that they're making a little bit of money, because it's easy for that to happen to men. So I'm having a lot of fun doing it. And I feel like this is what I'm supposed to be doing because in my heart of hearts, I'm a teacher.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is so awesome. I'm loving hearing all that. So you've just been stacking success after success after success. You had a great career in the teams. You had a great career in the Navy. You retired as a senior chief. You were able to transition at that pinnacle. You'd done it. You'd done your chief's platoon. You had accolades, successes, and then you stepped right into the business world. And yeah, of course, there were challenges, but you were still very successful in that entrepreneur's journey. And you have multiple companies under your belt now. So what could you share with our listeners, an attribute that, was useful for you to be able to accomplish those successes that you've been able to accomplish so well?
Yeah, I think that again, not being willing to stand still while you're getting actively shot at. Like, no, I got to keep going. Even when I make a mistake, like I don't have time to sit there and kind of focus on that mistake for a while. Like, no, I don't. Like, okay, I acknowledge I made a mistake. Now, what am I learning from it? Okay, you got to get up and keep moving. And so, my desire to just keep going, that's been really helpful. Grit, the fact that I have learned the hard way that I can take a lot of stuff, I can carry a lot of weight on these shoulders and not complain about it and just keep going. And I think that the thing that has helped me most, and I've learned this over the last, I'd say, 2 or 3 years in particular, Brent, is surrender. That has been extremely helpful to me over the last few years as things got really, really difficult, personally and professionally. Learning how to stop resisting so much because, again, I went into entrepreneurship with a team guy mindset. Like, I'm going to team guy this like I team guy everything else. So just don't get in my way and you'll be fine. You know what I mean? And I learned in entrepreneurship, like it doesn't necessarily work that way. Like, you can team guy yourself into walking off of a cliff real fast. In entrepreneurship, things just don't work that way. And so I made a bunch of mistakes at the very beginning of my career. And I still make mistakes from time to time, just like anyone else, but I made a lot of them. And a lot of them could have been the kind of mistakes that would cause a new entrepreneur to go like, that's it, I quit, this isn't for me, I'm going to go get a job. But having that grit, I think I've always had it, but it was really brought out of me when we went through training and throughout our careers in the SEAL teams. That has been tremendously helpful because my inclination whenever I would hit resistance would be to fight, 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 fight. And now I've learned that, hey, you got to surrender and flow. Like, I spent a lot of time asking God for his discernment. And I realized a few years ago, like, yeah, I was asking for it, but I wasn't really listening when he was trying to give it to me. And so now I've learned to surrender. And if I'm trying to go this direction, whether it be in life, in my training, in one of my businesses, and I'm feeling some static and I'm feeling like real resistance, I'm learning to just go, okay, well, pencil down, let me listen and hear if there is an alternative to what I'm doing right now. Because I don't want to be ice skating uphill anymore. I'm 47 years old. I'm too old for that. I don't want to work that hard anymore, right? And so I've learned to stop resisting so much and to surrender and flow instead. Like, okay, God, you want me to go this way? Fine, I'm gonna go this way. No problem. No, I don't even need to understand what's over there. You told me to go that way. That's the way I'm going. I'll figure it out when I get there. I know that your will for me is always good and perfect in your way, right? So learning how to surrender and stop resisting has been really helpful. And then lastly, like, man, so to be a really good teacher, first you got to become a really good student. And so I learned a tremendous amount from mentors, advisors that were really trying to help me to understand how to navigate my entrepreneurial journey considering I had never done it before. So I got a lot of help doing that, a lot of help doing that. But I found, going back to point number one, that grit has been, at least what I've discovered, is the most important characteristic in all of entrepreneurship, because you're going to get hammered. It's going to be the hardest thing you've ever done. And I'm really, really glad that I have that natural grit that has allowed me to not just face all of the obstacles that I face on this entrepreneurial journey, but be relentless in my pursuit to the point where I'm like, okay, I understand that's an obstacle, but it's not going to stop me. I'm either going to go over it, around it, or through it. And I'm going to keep going. I'm really doubling down on that with my coaching clients, and letting them know, like, hey, like when I was running a SEAL platoon as a chief, a part of my responsibility was to let those boys know exactly the danger they were getting into, what we were getting ready to go do in the Tangi Valley. Now I got to do the same thing for you. This is going to be the hardest thing you have ever done in your life, especially if you do it right. But I promise you that the reward that's going to come out of the other end, it's going to be 10x this pain that you're feeling in the process of building what you're building. So grit is incredibly important.
Absolutely, man. I'm so glad that you shared this. This is just really pinging on a lot of the attributes that have been just really stewing. And you mentioned you're working on a book. I'm working on a book as well. And you've just like hit chapter themes like like nobody's business. So kind of in that vein, success, grit. Would you be able to provide an example that you're comfortable sharing for one of these challenges that you went through, and maybe some of the stuff that you were going through, like how you were feeling, what helped you get over to the other side of it?
Yeah, so I can remember a few years, I think it was 2 or 3 years into running Vigilance Risk Solutions. We were doing really well, growing customer base so fast that I felt like I had no choice but to grow the team. That wasn't true. I did have a choice. There are a bunch of different ways I could have done that, now having the years and experience that I have now. But I felt like our customer base was growing so fast that, hey, I got to grow this team. And I ended up growing the team too fast, too early, and I think I overhired. I hired more people than I actually needed. And at that time, I absolutely needed them, and they were meaningfully employed. We were doing a lot of work for a lot of big companies. It was great. But because of that business model, that wasn't continuity cash flow. That was very, very lumpy cash flow. And sure, the checks were really big, but it wasn't the kind of check where, like, yeah, they're going to rewrite this check like clockwork year after year after year. So now I can see lifetime value in this customer. And I wasn't looking at it properly. I wasn't recognizing that, like, hey, dude, this is lumpy. Like, I know those numbers look big on the paper, but that's going to run out if they're not replenishing that well every time you drain it. And so we got to a point where that revenue did start slowing down. And I had all of this money going out because of expenses, because I'm paying salary and all of this other stuff. And then all of a sudden, the money that was coming in started declining. And so now I've got way more money going out than I got money coming in. And we can't sign new customers and new deals fast enough to balance those scales. And even more than balance it, like, no, I want money coming in to be way up here and money going out to be way down here. And so we started burning cash. And it got to the point where I nearly ran the company out of money, like, early on. We were going to crash and burn. And fortunately, I met a couple of gentlemen that became my mentors, and they came into the company and took active roles to help me kind of turn things around and teach me and help me to realize what I was doing wrong. And they actually saved my backside. They prevented us from running out of money, and I was able to turn things around and put a different business model in place that helped me to keep better track of the money and how to do a better job of projecting so that I could stay ahead of problems. But I tell you, especially at that time when that was happening, when I'm sitting there looking at the financial model and staring, doom and gloom in the face of, like, hey, I don't know if I'm going to make the next payroll. That was probably one of the worst feelings I ever experienced in my life, because now I've got all these people I'm responsible for, and I'm helping them to put food on the table for their families every month. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to make their next paycheck. And it was one of the worst feelings I ever felt in my life. And I promised myself that I would never forget that. And I would never forget the lessons that those two gentlemen taught me that allowed me to turn the ship around. Man, that was a time I'll never forget. It was a brutal feeling, and I learned a tremendous amount going through that.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot. And thank you for sharing. That's what I've heard a lot from other business mentors, other coaches and things like that, is that payroll aspect is just like a pucker factor that can't be duplicated. So you have a lot of experience in the AI world, in the security consulting, business coaching, and while some of my peers have grown children, some of them have younger children, but we're kind of entering into a new landscape that we haven't experienced. You know what I mean? Like most people have not experienced with AI, the fake news, the ease of which that things can be I mean, there's just deception and information wars everywhere. There's
Yep.
essentially people who are just trying to say falsehoods loud enough and long enough and hoping that people will believe it. And unfortunately, a lot of people are. So this is kind of a challenging question, but I think it's important to have some of these difficult conversations. What advice would you give to young people growing up in this very toxic information environment?
Yeah, man, that's a great question. And you're right, dude, there's so much misinformation and confusion being thrown around these days. I would say, first and foremost, understand that, you've got the seen and you've got the unseen. Know in your heart that there is much more going on than the unseen than what you can actually see with your own eyes and hear with your own ears. No, right now, at this very moment, there is a spiritual battle happening for your soul right now, each and every single one of you, because Satan wants all of you, and Jesus is like, no, you can't have them, they're mine. And so there's a lot more going on in the unseen world than what you can see in the real world. And I would also caution them to question everything. For example, well, okay, if I know there is a bunch of misinformation floating around out there, if I know that you've got major media outlets and political figures that are purposely lying to us in order to make us think something that we shouldn't be thinking, then that causes me to go, okay, well, if I can see it with my own eyes and I can hear it with my own ears, why do they want me to see that? Why do they want me to hear that? What are they trying to trick me into believing? What's going on behind my back right now because they're distracting me with this misinformation over here? So I would tell people, hey, start questioning everything. Do your own research. And here's the thing. There's so much misinformation and confusion and distraction that's cruising around, brother, that you can't even just read anymore. You got to actually know how to research, right? Because you can't just go to one site or to one, major media outlet, or because no, like everybody's like, he went that way, right? You have to be able to pull information from multiple sources and then take discernment from that, what it is that you should be focused on, what you think you should believe, what you shouldn't believe, which direction you should go, which places you should avoid. So if you don't know how to research, learn how to research, and then go do a lot more of that. And then I would also say, focus on zooming out. Zoom out with your mind, zoom out with your feelings, because again, there's a lot more going on in the unseen world than there's going on in the seen world. And like it's just like when we're on the battlefield and you're in charge tactically and shooting starts and everybody hits the ground on line, you're the chief. Like you don't get on your gun and start getting after it with everybody else. As soon as we hit the ground, no, I'm crawling back like 4 or 5 feet so that I can be out of the fighting and I'm not sucked into my rifle so that I can see the whole battlefield and I can see what's going on and kind of anticipate what their movement is going to be so that I can throw chaos at them and we take the initiative and win the fight. Like what's the terrain look like around me? What's their most likely course of action? What's the enemy's most dangerous course of action? I can't see that if I'm stuck down at the tactical level of each problem. instead of thinking strategically. And so I would challenge people to zoom out. And a lot of time, what that means is if there is something that you think you believe, and there are some doubts that are circling around that belief, well, there's something trying to pull you in a different direction. Don't just stay stuck in that belief. Allow yourself to zoom out and go, okay, well, what am I not seeing? What am I not realizing? Because this doubt is coming from somewhere when it comes to this particular situation. Allow yourself to zoom out. Allow yourself to question yourself and be like, hey, am I seeing this correctly? Am I thinking about this correctly? Because I think a lot of times fall in love with what's easy. We fall in love with our own opinions and our own ideas. And there's just so much more going on and that you really can't afford to be that way these days. You have to have the ability to zoom out and try to see as much of the battle space as you possibly can. Even when you're not being shot at, we just don't really have the luxury of being naive and walking around at the tactical level anymore.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Those are great tips. Thank you for sharing. I'm stoked on those. And I think I meant to kind of do this a little bit earlier, but missed it. So we'll just swing into it now. You made a statement about helping people live in their purpose and how you're really stoked that right now you feel like you're in that vein in your life. You are doing the mission that you were called to do. And you used a phrase, people who are walking in the image of God. And I think that's a very powerful phrase. And if you wouldn't mind expounding on that a little bit and help us a little bit understand of kind of what you mean by, hey, we are humans here walking in the image of God.
Yeah, thank you for asking that. I think that first we have to consider what this good book says. And don't laugh at my pink Bible. My girl gave it to me, so I will not get rid of it. It's awesome. But we have to consider what the good book says. God tells us that, your first commandment is to love thy God with all of your heart, your mind, your strength, everything. And your second command is to love one another as much as you love yourself. And he didn't say you got to love yourself more than you love other people. It's like, no, love everyone else as much as you love yourself. And so for me, like, that's where I start. Like, whoa, well, how do I walk in the image of God? Where I'm giving you the starting block. Number one, focus on loving God more than you love everybody, everything you have, everyone. Love God more than you love your children. Love God more than you love your partner. Love God more than you love your money. First and foremost, learn to love God first and more than you love anything and anyone else. And make sure that he knows that. Make sure that you're constantly talking to him about that. And then, by the way, love thy neighbor. Treat people the way you want them to treat you. I like to go a step further and I say, no, I try to treat people the way I want them to treat my children. Right? Like, no, you need to take extra care because that's my child you're talking to, and you don't want Papa Bear to come out, right? So I try to treat people the way that I expect them to treat my children, right? Another way to look at that is the Bible also tells us that, hey, God wants you to be fruitful and do multiply. And so God wants you to understand that he gave you special gifts and talents that he didn't give to other people. Like think about you. Not everybody can become a Navy SEAL. Not everybody has those gifts and those talents. So, but every person has their own gifts and talents. It's not like God was like, no, he's got some gifts and talents. She's got some gifts and talents. They don't. They do. They do. They do. You're cool. You don't. And no, that's not what God did. He gave all of us gifts and talents. And I think that it's your responsibility as an individual to figure out, well, what are mine? And how do I take advantage of the special talents and gifts that God gave me so that I can shine, so that I can rise and shine. I can elevate in my heart, in my mind, in my position on this planet, all of the above. How do I build a kingdom for the tribe that God has put me responsible for? And I think that that's what God wants us to do. God doesn't want you to be fearful. He doesn't want you. No, God doesn't want you walking around in fear and anxiety and worry and stress and you're all jacked up because your central nervous system is through the roof. That's not what God wants. I think God wants us to be happy and joyful and have hope in our hearts, not fear. And so we have to rediscover our individual power. And so I spend a lot of time these days focusing on being fruitful, right? Like I've identified that my gifts are, I do have a lot of grit. Like again, I can take a lot of crap. Not everybody can carry as much weight as me. And so sometimes that means that I have to go, hey man, no, don't worry, I got you. Give me that weight. I'll carry it for you, right? From here to there, I'll carry it for you. And communication. So I got to communicate to crowds. God is blessing me with his discernment. I got to share some of this with all of you so that you can learn from it too and you can speed up as well your desire to want to walk in image of God. God gave me the ability to learn and understand entrepreneurship. So how tragic would it be if I didn't bear that fruit to other aspiring entrepreneurs and help them to multiply too? And so I think that people have to spend a lot more time getting into the good book and understanding that it is an instruction manual. It's not a religious book. It is an instruction manual for how we're supposed to spend our time on this planet. And I think that we're supposed to spend most of our time on this planet learning how to serve other people and not ourselves. That's what I really, really mean. You should be trying every day to walk in the image of God. Think about Jesus Christ, the ultimate servant leader, the King of Kings, who spent his entire life on the planet serving other people and not himself. And think about what his reward for that was: eternal life. He is the King of Kings. He sits at the right hand of the Father now. And so we have to consider that as we're on our journey. Like, hey, I might go through brutality. I might go through a season in my life where I feel like I'm just being crucified. You know what I mean? I might go through, it's going to be good times and bad times, but I got to keep my eye on the prize. I can't allow those bad times to alter my vision or to turn my heart cold to the point where I stop trying to focus on bearing fruit and helping other people, because Jesus never lost sight of that. And he went through all of it for us because he knew that there was an inheritance waiting for him. And no matter how bad it got, he's like, no, I'm not going to lose sight of that there's a reward in heaven waiting for me. And, a part of this reward is that I'm going to save all of you. And that's what he wanted more than anything else, because he was a servant leader. It wasn't that he was just like, I'm going to get this reward. I'm going to be sitting at the right hand of my Father and I'm going to have all this gold. He's like, no, it was none of that. He's like, no, my reward is I'm going to save all of you. And so I think that as we're walking around in these physical bodies on this planet, we got to zoom out and realize that, like, hey, man, it's not really about me. It's not. It's not about me. It's about my children. It's about my family. It's about my friends. It's about me finding a way to be that servant leader to everyone in my kingdom, everyone in my tribe, and understanding that my goal for being on this planet is to fulfill the purpose, that my God given purpose, in a manner that's pleasing to God, and to serve everyone around me in a manner that's pleasing to God. And that's what I mean by that.
No, that's really awesome stuff. You just hit on so many great points. Our responsibility to give back, our responsibility to live in our purpose, our responsibility to, like you said, be fruitful and multiply, serving others. All these are just great ways to approach our day and say, hey, today, what am I doing? How am I multiplying myself? How am I multiplying others? How am I giving back to others? How am I serving others? And then another place that you touched on that I think is really important, and I'm going to start working on recording some more episodes in this vein here in the future, but it's that central nervous system you talked about, that anxiety, that fear. Like we mentioned it previously, hey, we've been through the ringer, we've been concussed, we've been around a lot of explosions, and that has an effect on our physiology, like this human meat sack that we walk around in. And one of the things you said is like, God doesn't want us to be afraid. God doesn't want us to be anxious. His word says, for God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. So taking those things, and whenever your whole physiology is working against you, it's like, I felt like my body got hijacked. Like,
Yep.
I felt like for like a long time, I wasn't living as me. I didn't have my faculties. I didn't have the control of my systems that I used to have. There was some dysfunction going on. I got help. I got treatment. I got to get to the right clinic. And, I've repaired and I've improved a lot. But there's still people that are going through that. There's still people right now who feel like their nervous system, their body, their mind has been hijacked by trauma, by wrong ways of thinking. So being able to have that reset of, hey, we're not designed to live in this anxious state. We're not designed to be here. We're designed to be in power, love, a sound mind. We're not anxious. We're optimistic, like you said. We are seeing the good. We are seeing the miracle of the daily life in the world around us. So that is definitely an area that, one, I want my book to help address, to help give other people tools, and also these shows so that they have tools to kind of reset themselves, realign themselves, because sometimes you just need that external push. You need something outside of yourself to kind of guide you back on that track. And I'm so thankful that you've been just hitting grand slams with all of your responses, and you're just very aligned with all of those right things. So I didn't even have to ask you to answer that. It just came right out. So I love it.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Yeah, I think that it gets easier the more you do it. And it might be easier for us just because we come from a community where like it's just hammered into our brains that leadership ain't about you. It's about the men and women to your left and your right. And the United States military does such a fantastic job of teaching individuals that lesson. And here's the beautiful thing about it. You got 10 people on a team, and all 10 of those people, all 10 of them are individually constantly thinking about the team versus themselves. Can you imagine how powerful that team is? That team will never need, they will never want. That tribe is just constantly, they're sharpening one another. Just like the good book says, as iron sharpens iron, one man sharpens another. I really, really believe that that is why God put us on the planet. It is to help one another. You know, I can remember being a kid and on the big holidays like Thanksgiving and Christmas growing up down in East St. Louis, we would always have a big Thanksgiving and a big Christmas dinner at my grandma's house, in the house that we all grew up in, that my grandpa built with his bare hands when he came back home from World War II. And everybody would be at my grandma's house and everybody would be having a good time. And on those holidays, my grandmother would always leave her front door open. The screen door would be closed. You know, in the Midwest, we get weather, right? So the screen door would be closed, keeping the warmth in, but the main door would be open. And it's because she wanted the homeless people out there to know that they were welcome to come in and get a plate of food and enjoy some warmth for a little while. And people would come in. And my aunts and my mom would serve these people and would treat them like they were a part of the family. You know, and even us kids, and even though we never had to be told, I don't remember ever once my mom or any of my aunts telling us this. We just knew, like, hey, you treat that person with respect. There's no poking, there's no making fun of, there's no laughing, there's no whispering. Like, no, like you treat that person and look at them like they're a part of the family. And that is exactly what we did because that was the tone the leader, my grandmother, was setting for us. And she had passed that down to her sons and her daughters, right? And so it was a very valuable lesson that I learned.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's great to have mentors in your life, people, leaders in your life that set that tone, that set that example. And that's incredible. That is
Thank you.
awesome. Yeah. Yeah. So, man, you've got a lot of good stuff going on. You've got your hero consulting, you're launching your master class. So, what do your next steps look like? What's your future look like? What's your big passion now? I know we've talked about helping, empowering others, but is there a nugget that you want to leave the listeners with?
Yeah, I'm working on wrapping up some writing. I am writing a book on modern men and masculinity. And hey, how do I find my focus as a man, Ty? Like all you know, you and Brent were talking about, there's all this confusion and misinformation and distraction going on, and so I want to help men specifically understand how to realign, right, and how to get on that path and walk in the image of God as best you can. Nobody's coming to save you, right? Jesus already redeemed you, but if you're just going to throw that away while you're here, like you're just wasting away. And so I want to teach men how to do that, and so that they can see how powerful they are and they can build anything that they want to do. I want to, in my autobiography that's going to go into screening soon, before I can publish, that's got to be screened by the DoD. What I want people to get out of that is the fact that there's always hope. There is always hope. I have gone through every trial you can imagine, nearly, right? And I'm still here. I'm still pumping. I'm still happy. I'm still doing my thing, trying to help other people. There is always hope, just like the Bible says, even a live dog is better off than a dead lion. So as long as you are on this planet, there is hope. You're still alive and breathing because God still sees something in you and he's giving you a chance to fulfill that purpose. God still believes in you. Like the moment he stops believing in you, you're out of here. And I want to be that walking, talking testimony of God's grace of like, man, like, no, you think you messed up? Like, look at all these mistakes I made. And I'm still here and God still loves me and I'm still getting better every day. I'm trying to get sharp every day. And guess what? You can do it too. Like this boy from East St. Louis grew up and did all of this stuff. So imagine what you can do. And that's what I want people to get out of my autobiography. And also, I'm preparing to record a webinar for Hero Consulting. I launched the Mission to Millions Challenge a few days ago. So, this is a 60 to 90-minute webinar where I am teaching faith driven, aspiring entrepreneurs how to launch a 7-figure business so fast that it might make their head actually pop off. Because I'm going to give them templates through this instructional, I'm going to give them frameworks through this instructional so that again I'm kind of guiding them around a lot of the booby traps that I stepped into or nearly stepped on into early on in my entrepreneurial journey. And so I'm really excited about that because again I feel like that is my purpose, is to teach people, and I want to help them to bear fruit and grow generational wealth for their tribes too. And that's the impact I want to have, is I want to help other people to not just get rich, but to love God in the process and let God love on them in the process. Like a lot of people make a mistake of thinking that God wants us to be poor and broke, and that's not true. He literally said, be fruitful and do multiply. To multiply means to increase, right? And like God doesn't want you to love money more than you love everybody else in him. Like that's the real sin, is the love of money to the point where you put it before you put God first and other people first, right? And so I'm really excited about doing that. That's why I'm doing a lot of this writing. That's what I'm doing with Hero Consulting. And that's why I launched the Mission to Millions Challenge, because I'm challenging each one of you listeners. Seriously, brother, if my opinion is that it is the man's responsibility to grow generational wealth for his family, for his tribe, for his kingdom. It is his responsibility to lead them to financial salvation and spiritual salvation. That's how we make a generational impact that affects our tribe long after we are gone, right? And so, yeah, I'm excited about all of that. I'm going to be making some more web-based training courses around entrepreneurship and growing and scaling a company to beyond 7 figures as quickly as you possibly can. I just filmed the masterclass yesterday. I'm very excited. That's going to be published on YouTube at Coach Ty Smith very, very soon. And I'm just going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep communicating to crowds. I'm going to keep sharing my fruit with other people and teaching them how to find their fruit so they can go out and multiply as well. And I'm one of those kinds of coaches where I don't see other coaches as competition. For example, I learn a lot by listening to Myron Golden and watching his videos. I learned so much about what's in the Bible from listening to his videos. And it's like, dude, it would be a tragedy if I didn't share this with my friends that don't even know who he is. Like, by the way, and I'm going to write this down too. It's going to make me even better and even closer to God. And so I'm really excited about the fact that I've really kind of I've stepped back into this teacher role.
Dude, it is awesome. I'm so excited to see you just completely flourish and all the things that you're doing. Again, just nailing it. Like one of the parables is the wise servants, hey, here's some money. I'm going to be gone. The master leaves and he comes back. It's like, well, what'd you do with it? Oh, I just put it underneath the pillow and, I got what you gave me. And then other ones, no, I doubled it. I tripled it.
That's right.
And I love how you're cultivating that in your peers and the generations that are coming after you and all of the impact that you have and the legacy that you're leaving. It is just doing my heart so good to just see you thriving in your passion and in your purpose.
Thank you, brother. I really appreciate that. And you just nailed it. That is my goal for doing what I'm doing. I want other people's hearts to feel good because I think that that's what God wants of us. He wants us to sharpen one another. He wants us to be fruitful and to multiply so that, like, think about it, he already gave us everything that we need. We spend so much time chasing and looking. It's like, nah, man, it's already right here. It's all inside of you, right here. This part of your body is where the kingdom of heaven is. Right there in the center of your heart, you have it all. And I can't think of anything that makes me feel better than to know that someone's heart frequency is being elevated as a result of something that I said to them or something I did for them or something that I taught them that brought them even closer to God.
So awesome. So great. I'm stoked. Again, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show, for speaking with us. Hopefully we can do this again in the future once you've got
Anytime.
more of your awesome. Awesome. I want to give you the floor to wrap it up. Any last words? And also please let the listeners know where they can find you, where they can find your master classes, all that stuff.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just going to reiterate to all the listeners, start today finding out a way to try to walk in God's image all day, every day. And take it easy on yourself. You're never going to be perfect. God already knows that. Remember, He wrote your story long before you got here. He said, before I formed you in the womb, I consecrated you and assigned you to be a prophet to the nations. So take it easy on yourself, but try your best to walk in His image. I also want to remind all of you faith driven, aspiring entrepreneurs to go to wearehero.com. That's hero with an I / mission to millions. Sign up for the webinar. Let me walk you step by step through how to launch a 7-figure business so fast your head might actually pop off. And be on the lookout for the Modern Man Masterclass that's going to be coming out here very, very soon. Be on the lookout for some of my writing that's going to be coming out very, very soon. And lastly, I would say to you, do not wait. Do not wait to start walking in God's image. Don't wait till tomorrow. If there is a dream on your heart, it's there because God put it there, which means it's absolutely possible. It is already done. Believe in yourself, have confidence in yourself, therefore confidence in God. Do your work because faith without action is dead. So get out there and do your work and let go of that stress, that fear, that anxiety. Give it to God. Let Him take up care of the rest. And you have full 100% expectation that that is what He is going to do. Do your work. Do not be afraid. Get out there and build for your kingdom.
Awesome. So powerful. Thank you so much again for coming on the show. I'm excited to see all of the good work that you're doing and all of the impacts that you're going to have on so many people.
Thank you, brother. I really, really appreciate that. Y'all make sure you look me up on Instagram at Coach Ty Smith. Look me up on YouTube at Coach Ty Smith. You can also connect with me via the Hero Consulting website. Again, that's wearehero.com. That's hero with an I. You can look me up on LinkedIn. That's Ty Smith 31. Reach out to me anytime, and I am here to serve.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. That was some gold right there. I would like to take this time to introduce a new segment to our show. I'd like to introduce Debrief and Cocktails, DB&C. Just like a perfectly blended craft cocktail or an expertly aged bourbon, we want to wrap things up with some key takeaways and leave you with an action plan to finish strong. We just heard Ty drop some incredible wisdom. Here are some key things we can take away and take with us and make our mission for the week based on what we just heard. Ty gave us 3 tools for navigating the modern world. 1, conduct your own recon. Don't trust just one source. Gather intel from multiple places before forming your opinion. 2, zoom out. Take one problem you're facing this week and pull back from the tactical level. Look at the big picture. Ask yourself, what does the whole battlefield look like? And what one thing can I do or change to best affect that critical battle space? And 3, serve the mission. Find one small way to serve someone else this week. Maybe it's your neighbor, a coworker, a friend, a family member. As Ty said, that is how we walk in our purpose. Thanks for coming on the show, and thanks for joining us to listen in. If you found some value in that and are excited to hear more, go ahead, like, follow, subscribe. We are very grateful that you're here with us and joining us on our journey. Have a great week, y'all.
Thank you for joining us today on this curious roller coaster of life. If this is your stop, please exit peacefully. Enjoy the rest of your day. If you're ready for another one, just push play. Just a final note before you go. Thank you. And thank you for feeling. The distillation and aging process is different for everyone. I'm not quite sure what you're ready for. Sip slowly and enjoy responsibly.
Baby says she's leaving if I don't stop drinking wine. So I switched to whiskey, now I'm feeling fine. Drinking that smooth, smooth whiskey. No more wine. I like straight bourbon, baby.